Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Craven County Board of Commissioners regular session for Monday, November 19th. Madam Clerk, would you call the order?
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Liner? Commissioner McCabe?
Here.
Commissioner Sampson?
Here.
Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
Vice Chair Dacey?
Here.
Chairman Mark?
Here. I'd just like to make an announcement about Commissioner Liner. His father-in-law died, and he's away at the funeral on that, so that's the reason he's not here today. Could we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, please watch over all the constituents of Craven County. Help this board make the right decisions with intelligence and attitude, and watch out over all the service people, keep them out of harm's way. In your name we pray. Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
You've had an opportunity to look over the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask that we would add one item to the agenda today. It would be a request from the town of Dover to enter into an agreement with our water department.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion we approve the agenda with the added item.
Mr. Chairman, there's one small change I'd like to suggest. It's the U.S. Small Business Administration.
Mr. Chairman, I made a motion.
Yeah, let it. Do I have a second to that?
Second motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Can we
Can we
have
have
discussion?
Discussion. I tried.
Okay. Do you want to offer your change? Is that,
His was in my.
okay, all right. Just one little change. It's Small Business Administration, not Association.
You want to add that?
Well, I mean, yes.
All right.
I move, if you want to be
All
technical today, we
Yeah.
can do that. I
Let's
move that we amend the agenda.
Mr. Dacey, this is our last meeting, for gosh sake.
I move that we amend the agenda to have it reflect that the correct name of the U.S. Small Business Administration is as stated, administration rather than association.
Objection, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Just kidding. Thank you.
Okay. We have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'd like to take a moment before we get into consent agenda to mention that we have three people in the audience. I'd like to Keith Kidwell, who just won the House of Representatives. E.T. Mitchell will be the new commissioner on December 3rd. In District 4, and Denny Booker will be in District 7. Thank you. The consent agenda consists of the minutes of November 5th, regular session 2018, and tax releases. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes. And I'm going to let Mr. Dacey tell us about U.S. business.
The Small Business Administration? Well, this morning, it appears as though that we have Jacqueline Wu, the Public Affairs Specialist here. And if you'd be kind enough to come forward, we'd greatly appreciate having you here. The only reason he's doing this to me is because I used to work at the SBA.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Jacqueline Wu. I'm a Public Affairs Specialist with the Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Assistant. I prepared a memorandum for you guys in terms of, will do. Just to provide a quick update in terms of SBA's activity in Craven County. So as of Friday, more than $50 million have been dispersed throughout Craven County. We're still trying to get people to register and apply, especially because it's important in the recovery process that folks first register with FEMA, and then if they're referred to SBA, to go ahead and fill out an SBA application, because what many people don't realize is that even if you are not qualified for an SBA loan, you are then referred back to FEMA for additional grants and benefits as well. And we'd like to highlight that the deadline is December 13th. It is coming up, and we're actively on the ground trying to make sure people know that we're here. We're still at the Recovery Center across from the PIG on 710 DeGraff and Reed Road.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? Is there a program within the SBA to build new construction for investors? There is a severe shortage of rental properties here. Do you know, I mean, the interest rates that you offer are much more likely to enable a builder to build something and have affordable housing here than it would be if you go to market, because the interest rates are really climbing. They're up to 6% in some cases for investment type building.
So I'm familiar with more of our disaster assistance side, but I can look into, we do, of course, help out small businesses, all businesses, in terms of growing their business and also doing investments as well. So I can look into that, sir, and get back to the commission as well.
Okay. If I give you my number, would you have somebody call me?
Will do.
Commissioner Tyson, typically what happens is small businesses would be required to go to two separate banks, and if they're declined by both of those banks, then they can come to the SBA, and the SBA has got a small business lender assistance program that it would then make available to that small business. But I'm not aware of any program that allows for them, through their disaster assistance program, to come in and provide financing for startup companies, if you will.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Wu, you mentioned that December 13th was the cutoff date. Now, let's assume that a person has applied for SBA loan and has been approved and yet hasn't taken it. What is the cutoff date for that?
So from the date of your letter stating your award, you have about 30 days to decide whether or not you would like to take the loan. And then if you are still undecided, you could also put an additional hold on the loan for up to a year.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a wonderful day.
Okay, Department Matters, Kelly Walker.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The first item we have is the Safety and Security Plan. The North Carolina Department of Transportation, Public Transportation Division, NCDOT PTD, was on site February 20th and 21st of this year. CARTS was instructed to revise the Safety and Security Program Plan, SSPP, to meet current requirements and submit the plan for approval by the governing board. The SSPP is now called the Safety and Security Plan, SSP, and it has been updated to meet the NCDOT PTD requirements. And this plan was provided to you. And we are asking for board approval of the SSP with a revision date of November 2018. Once approved, then we will submit this to the NCDOT PTD.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Any discussion?
You want to highlight anything within there, that any changes or?
If I can let Charles come up with, in regards to that, because he mostly worked on this particular plan.
Good morning, gentlemen. The biggest thing that was updated on this was our last section, the COOP program, the continuum of operational procedures. Basically, it elaborates that we fall under Craven County local government policies and procedures when we go into an emergency situation. So, other than that, that's pretty much the only update that's in the program, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it. Okay, next.
Okay. Next is the grants and financial management policies and procedures. So NCPTD completed an on-site compliance, capacity, and proficiency review in January of 2017. There was a compliance finding under federal management regarding mileage reimbursement for approved business travel. CARTS was instructed to reference within the travel policy that CARTS will reimburse at the federal IRS rate for mileage, even though it's very rare that CARTS reimburses employees for mileage. An example would be if we respond to an accident and it's quicker to go in our own vehicle than to go to the office, pick up a CARTS vehicle, admin vehicle, and then proceed on to the accident site. That specific change in policy required an update to the current grants and financial management policies and procedures document, which was approved last in 2010. We have taken the opportunity to update the entire policy with other changes made over time, and those changes are examples of position titles, clarifying tasks of positions, and clarifying fare collection and storage procedures. So we're asking for approval of that plan, and it will also be submitted to NCDOT PTD after approval.
Okay.
So
I have a
moved, Mr.
motion.
Chairman.
We have a motion, second.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Any discussion by any commissioners? Most of this we're doing already, is that correct?
Yes, yes, and it's more of a formality of the changes that are in this plan. We were doing them, we're just now we're just correcting what's in writing about how we're actually doing it.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Nays? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Scott Harrelson, Department Matters Health.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I have two agenda items to bring before you this morning. And the first is new funding from HRSA for behavioral health. We saw a need in our patient population for mental health services that frankly are hard to come by at this time. We've seen it both in New Bern and our Havelock location. We've also talked with the new managed care entities that will be overseeing the Medicaid in the future in North Carolina. They've actually come, visited us, and talked with us about integrating behavioral health within our primary care clinics. And likewise, the State Association of Community Health Centers is also making a push to try to incorporate this in all of the health centers throughout the state. So we applied for the funding, and we were funded at $285,000. And what we would like to do with this, we can use approximately $220,000 of it this fiscal year, and there's a process for carrying forward the additional $65,000 into next budget year. But what we would do with the money is hire a licensed clinical social worker to be able to provide services to our primary care, mild to moderate billing for those sessions, and provide it to our primary care patients, our maternity patients, and possibly even some of our hospice patients who might need grief counseling. And I think that it will also be another resource for the community for people that we aren't even seeing currently within our programs. In addition, we would like to hire a processing assistant to aid this person and set up telepsychiatry, where we would actually put view stations and large screen televisions in New Bern and in Havelock. And in that instance, we're anticipating about a half a day a week, 4 hours a week. We would have the services of some regional psychiatrists to actually do sessions with people who need that level of care. And that would be a great benefit here locally, takes transportation out of the equation. And our own East Carolina University group is doing this from western North Carolina and also all the way to eastern North Carolina, and seems to be somewhat of a leader in the state. And at that time, that's the program in a nutshell, and I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, this is for a budget amendment for new behavioral health funding. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Okay, discussion.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, is this a one-time grant?
Good question,
And
Commissioner
does
Tyson.
the source of funding come from Medicaid?
This is actually Health Resources Services Administration, HRSA. And that's not Medicaid. It's
Okay.
different. It's a different pot of money. It's federal money. And the initial amount was $285,000. The recurring amount will be $100,000.
Okay. At the present time, you do not have anybody that's trained, medically trained to help with, I guess, people that have psychological problems in the health department?
No, sir. We actually have two of our mid-level providers, our nurse practitioners, that are trying to go back and get the certificate program for that very thing, which will be an assistance definitely through our clinics. But we were working, and we still do work with Port Human Services to provide mental health services to our customers. And they were able at one time to place someone once a week in our clinic in New Bern. We really wanted more than that, and we also wanted them to do that in Havelock as well. But
How, excuse me, Scott, and if they were coming to, how were they being paid out of?
we just provided space for their
Okay.
staff.
And they were charging for,
That's right.
Medicaid.
They would do their own billing.
okay.
But we anticipate 50 to 60% of the people we see to have no payment, no coverage. And the other 40% to have some type of coverage that we could bill for. So that $100,000 recurring would help us to subsidize and see the people who may not have any coverage, and the ones that do, then we would do the mental health billing for that.
The telemedicine, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry if I.
That's all right, go ahead.
The telemedicine is a newer phenomenon that we're seeing more and more of in the medical field. I say we, I'm not a doctor, didn't know that already. But they're seeing more and more of that, and I think it is, you know, I don't know if it's proven yet, but it seems to be working well, particularly in that field that you're talking about.
Yes, sir. We are in a psychiatrist shortage area here in this part of the state, so they're few and far between. And if you can set up, imagine a 65-inch monitor screen, when they're that size, it's almost lifelike when you're in front of them. And the individual can see the psychiatrist can see them, and it's just a very efficient way to have those expertise spread out in our area.
Are you seeing any mental health issues as a result of this storm?
Yeah, I think that it has exacerbated things. I think that the stress and the displacement has probably made some already bad situations worse.
I don't know if you're seeing them in the health department, but I can tell you in Fairfield Harbor and Riverbend and probably Woodrow and many other areas, there is definitely a need for mental health caseworkers.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Questions?
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I was just
Sampson.
thinking about how many people we have, not since the storm, but even before the storm, so mentally compared to a certain extent, not only adults, but also young people, even small kids. And they cannot get this treatment because it's not there for all of them. So I feel that the more people that we are treated, that's the less people we will have to work with and the more money we can save. And these be well-spent dollars to try to get people on the right track. And when you get people on the right track, you won't have to spend as much money as you're spending now trying to put people in the jail, in the prison, because our prison and jails is overran with citizens that could be helped if they could get help at the right time. Because after they get too far gone, we just keep spending more and more money. They be beyond help, but we still got to spend the money on them. So I think this be a good thing.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
Um,
Vice Chairman.
So Scott, your traditional population of service are largely Medicaid recipients, correct?
Yes, sir.
Throughout the state, we have a managed care organization plan that Craven County has participated in for a number of years called Trillium.
Yes, sir.
They manage behavioral health services throughout eastern North Carolina for the most part. Can you explain to the people why this is not a duplication of services?
Yes, sir. Trillium is, like you said, a management care entity. They're not the frontline providers. They're basically a management entity. So if you look at the area with mild to moderate, the way we're set up, we technically will not even be listed as a Trillium mental health provider. We won't be signed up or enrolled under them. That's an RFP process that frankly isn't even open to us right now. So we're actually
Okay, but that goes to my point here, that what we're dealing with is a duplicative service that is being presented to the taxpayers here. I'm troubled because, number one, typically you would come to us before you would initiate a new program, and you'd say, Commissioners, we're looking at doing something, going down this path.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall us ever having been approached over this particular issue. And I may be wrong, but I don't think that we have been. We didn't authorize you to go forward with this. You know, terrific that you got it, but my concern is that we've got a duplication of services. The population that you are servicing are largely Medicaid recipients. The population that Trillium services through their care providers, folks that are doing exactly what you're suggesting would be done, but are already out in the field through their own small businesses that they're running, you know, very effectively throughout eastern North Carolina, and that Trillium then sends the Medicaid recipients to, they are there. We will now be going into competition with those folks. I mean, that's problematic to me. So, first, you didn't come to us to ask, should we do this? We didn't, as a Board of Commissioners, didn't have the opportunity to take a look at the program to say, what sort of an impact is this going to have? Third, we didn't recognize whether or not this is going to have an impact on the coffers. I mean, we're obviously spending more money doing something that's already available in the service. Now, I'm saying that it's available today. We know that Medicaid and Medicare are going to be changing throughout the next couple of years. The General Assembly has now passed some laws. They're going to make things a bit different. I can understand how you might want to come to us once those changes are made, but at this point in time, those plans have not been changed. They won't change until 2020. And I guess I'm just concerned that, you know, we're going down a path of duplicating services, that we're spending money on something that is already being taken care of through another avenue. And then, you know, just to pick nits here, you didn't come to us the right way.
Commissioner Dacey, we did.
And Commissioner Sampson, if you can explain to me, sir, if you, I'm not done.
I'm gonna get the floor.
Okay,
I'm gonna get the floor.
Gentlemen,
If you
he's
can-
trying
Hold
to
on.
answer the question.
Yes, sir. We did put this forth through the Board of Health, and then prior to this meeting, I did make mention, I don't know if you were at the meeting when I made mention of this money and this opportunity to this board. But we did submit it through the Board of Health, and I did actually make mention of it here previously. And then it was not an agenda item. And then I came back, now coming back with this. But I will say that with certainty that the population that we're trying to service is not getting any service right now. So they're not being served. I can say that with certainty. We've got almost 5,000 primary care patients now between adults and children. We've got, at any given point in time, about 380 maternity, high-risk maternity clients. And these people don't have the service. That's why we're trying to fill a niche. And, you know, if you're talking about one LCSW, just our patient population and whoever else that's floating around, maybe the Mercy Clinic or RCS, that will be sent to us. Maybe some of the jail diversion programs are trying to start up with the opioid group. Dave Peterson from Trillium is actually on our committee, and he's been very supportive of us trying to do this.
Sir, with all due respect, Dave Peterson told me that you talked to him 2 weeks ago about this. That's the first time he's heard about it, and that's the only discussion that he's had about it.
Well, I talked with him about 2 weeks ago, but to try to see if we needed to be a provider, which he told me we did not need to be. But I talked with him several weeks when we actually, I have emails that I sent him before we applied for the money.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, Commissioner.
I just like to say, I know we have Trillium, and I can remember when we used to have our own mental health place right here in Craven County. Then it began to spread out. It seemed like the longer, most it spread out, the less support we received from these other combined counties that were working together. And it don't take a genius to see that we are not getting the support we are needed in Craven County with all the problems that we are having with people walking the street, people with mental health, people in our jails. You don't take our eyes down and see that, and how less support we are getting from other areas. And we need support here in Craven County. We can't even help anyone if we can't help ourselves. So we need all the help we can get. I see mental health people walking the street, and we spent plenty of money from Craven County taxpayer sending people to Raleigh and different places to be treated, and still got a lot of them on the street. And the more help we can get, the better off we're gonna be. Yeah, I can say without a doubt that we need all the support we can get to try to take care of Craven County, then we'll be in a position to help other people.
Thank you, Commissioner Sampson. Commissioner Tyson?
Yes. Did you say that Dave Peterson's on the board, health board?
No, sir. He's actually on the committee, the treatment committee for the opioid task force.
Okay. What is the Medicaid reimbursement rate for mental health treatment? I know there's probably different levels.
Well, it is. There's different levels, and it's very independent on how it's coded. I've seen anywhere from $75 for roughly a 45-minute session to over $100, depending on what level. And we're just saying maybe 40% of these people might have some type of coverage.
Okay. When does this grant application have to be in?
Well, the application's in. We have actually received a favorable response, and what I'm here this morning is to try to get approval to put the program in place, or actually take the $285,000.
What if you didn't get the approval today? It was put off till the next meeting, and you have a new board coming on. Is that?
We have basically 120 days, just like from the notice of award, to try to put things in place. And I think that it's going to be very challenging to find a LCSW anyway. It would put a crunch.
Huh?
It would put us in a crunch.
Okay. I would like to hear from the county manager on this
Okay.
issue, if he has any additional information.
Well, sir, it's certainly,
Be a new, it's not a new employee, or it is a new employee?
be two new employees.
Yeah,
No
okay.
employee.
Two.
Mhm.
I think what you're looking at is you have to figure out if this is an arena that you think the county should get into in mental health. We've worked on several initiatives over the last 4 to 8 years dealing with mental health in our community. As Mr. Sampson said, obviously there's some things there and there's some gaps that need to be filled. You know, my biggest concern, and shared this with Scott, is that we need to start doing more with the opioid follow-up. We need to be starting focusing on that coexisting condition between a mental health disorder and a substance abuse disorder. I haven't heard him mention that with this position, but certainly if that's something that could be tailored into this approach and something that we could use this position to fulfill, I think it'd be a win. But again, on just getting into that screening and level of stuff, that's up to you if you want to expand, Governor.
Yeah, that was a question I was going to ask you. Are some of these people in the opioid situation?
Yes, sir. And one thing that, that we have not, with this funding is just mild to moderate mental health services plus a little bit of telepsych. But this has nothing to do with prescribing or trying to treat substance abuse. It's not that. But I do feel that, yes, sir, definitely a percentage of the folks that we'll be dealing with also have substance abuse issues.
Mr. Chair, if I may add one more thing, Scott triggered. If this also includes some functionality that we could include some services in our jail. We know that the jails have now become the confinement facility for people, a lot of times with mental disorders. If that services could be provided, it could potentially help us with some of the exposure and liability we have of having to incarcerate those folks with nowhere for them to go.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask, do we know that those services will be provided through these funds?
I wish, I guess I was kind of asking Scott that question. If that's a caveat, then that would be a big,
I'm sorry.
big help.
Mr. Chairman, this is my point, is that if we'd have had this discussion ahead of time to more fully understand what the scope and the breadth of this program would be, then I think we could make a more well-informed decision. We weren't given that opportunity. We're creating effectively a new course of business within this county. We're bringing on new employees. This is not something that's typically done by a department after they have made application for a grant, received the grant, and then come to us and said, oh, well, commissioners, if you don't do this, we're gonna lose the money. We're gonna put Mr. Sampson in a position where he's unhappy because now we've got folks that are going uncared for.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Jones?
I know you've stated that it might put you in a crunch, but I think for this board to, to make a decision that would benefit, we don't want to go and invest this amount of money to reduplicate services that are already there. I agree with that. But if it would help in those other areas in which we brought up, I think it would be a benefit to the citizens of this county. In saying that, it may put you in a crunch, but I feel like if it comes before a vote now, it's going to be voted down, personal opinion. I would rather to allow staff the opportunity between now and the next meeting, defer it, allow them the time to gather that information and bring back to the board, and that it be voted on at that appropriate time. So I would enter that into a motion.
We have a motion on the floor.
Can I amend the motion?
To defer consideration, or?
I'd like to amend the original motion to defer consideration to the next meeting.
So we're going to have amendment to the original motion. Do we have a
I'll second that amendment.
Mr. Chair, may I clarify? The motion is for staff to work with Scott to come up with a plan how it can be best utilized to maximize the.
We want to know for
Services.
sure that it can be used in our jail, number one. Number two, if it's going to assist with the opioid task force and that epidemic that we're focusing on. We have lost, we've applied for grants for it. We have not been able to receive them. If this is something that it could go towards in that respect, it might be a good utilization.
If I can interject, we would gladly see any of the people from our jails for primary care or for mental health if we had the services. I mean, we're open to it. There would be no barrier to care for them.
And can I have some more conversation? I've been told for years and years and years by various sources that in our jails, about 50% of the people in there have mental health issues or substance abuse issues. And that seems to be nationwide, according to some of the seminars I went to in Nashville. So I think as part of the conversation that you bring back to the board, I think you need to just have some private sector people say, yes, we don't have the capacity to take any Medicaid patients, any additional Medicaid patients. traditionally in medicine, I'm told that Medicaid patients do not pay enough money, or the reimbursement for Medicaid does not pay enough to cover the cost of the service. Although what you just told me would lead me to believe maybe otherwise, but it's true that in almost most cases that I know of, they don't pay as much as private insurers or even perhaps TRICARE or Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yes, sir.
So I think that you need to demonstrate that there is a lack of providers in this area.
Okay. So we have an amendment to the motion to allow staff to give us additional information so that we can make a decision on this. We have a second.
Second.
Have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
No.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Mark?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I want
Yeah.
to, apologize, because this man does a tremendous job for our community, and I'm sorry to come down so hard
I know,
at this last
I'm sorry.
meeting that we're going to be here, and I just want you to know how appreciative I am for all that you do for our community, and this little discussion here should not be representative of my overall feelings of affection toward you or your department in any way. So
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Commissioner Dace.
All right. Budget amendment, Animal Shelter Act.
All right, my second budget amendment request is for $44,354 for animal control. As you know, we've expanded the shelter, and I also have Ms. Green standing behind me, my animal control director, to answer any questions you may have that I cannot answer. But basically, these funds would be to before I get into the funds, there's also a request to change operating hours, which will be effective January 1, I believe. Ms. Green put together a very good presentation to the to Mr. Vite and county management on hours of operation. And right now, we are sort of an anomaly. We open up to the public as early as 8:30 in the morning, and you can imagine with a facility our size full of animals, that does not give you enough prep time in the morning to turn over the cages, the kennel runs, and do what you need to do. So we looked at peer counties and some other regional animal control outfits, and they're averaging about 29 hours a week open to the public. Right now, we would like to go, and I'll run down the days of the week. Monday from 10:30 to 5:30, Tuesday from 10:30 to 5:30, Wednesday from 1 to 5:30, Thursday from 10:30 to 5:30, Friday from 10:30 to 5:30, Saturday from 10:30 to 3. If you add that up, that gives you about 37 hours open to the public, but it also gives time in the morning to go in and do the proper cleaning, feeding, and things of that nature. And I do think that 37 hours a week, even on Saturdays, will be ample time for the public to come in, view the animals, do adoptions, turn-ins, whatever they need to do. And that is one part of this request, is to allow us to change those hours, because currently it's really running open to the public from 8:30 to 5:30 on those days.
Mr. Chairman?
Well, can we get a motion first?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, let's say that I run across an animal in the evening, and I take care of the animal throughout the night. I've got to go to work the next day. I want to do something with that animal on my way to work. It doesn't appear as though there's any opportunity under this plan until 10:30 in the morning to do something, or is there something that somebody can do?
That is a good question from Ms. Green.
Thank you. There's a couple of ways a citizen can get the animal back into the shelter. We don't turn people down at the door. If someone's at the door, it's always been my policy, just let them in, take care of business. They can also dial 911, and they'll get a hold of an officer. We can meet them. But if they're at the animal shelter, I'm not going to refuse a citizen at the door, definitely. Thank you.
Answered your question.
Indeed.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay, We have a motion to new hours of operation and request for additional personnel at the animal shelter. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McKay?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dacy?
Yes.
Chairman Martin?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the budget amendment of 44,354, this is for one full-time shelter attendant and also to maintain the part, or the temporary positions we have through the remainder of the fiscal year. I know that you've put a great deal of resources towards animal control already, and we are now in a phase of determining what level of staffing we really need. I do think that, you know, even though we'll be open to the public with these new hours, 37 hours a week, staff is there 7 days a week. And I do feel that some of the turnover has been because of the shortage of staff, and now that we're trying to do more adoptions and rescues and whatever we can, we're holding animals longer. We are at capacity most all the time. We feel that our field staff, the animal control officer staff, I talked with Ms. Green, she feels we're good to go there, but on the shelter side is where we need more boots on the ground.
Okay, how many employees do we have now?
Right now, we have 8 full-time, 2 part-time, 2 50%ers, and this would give us 9 full-time and 2 part-time on the books. And we have 4 temporary positions, but I don't know that we would use all 4 of them, but they're there for utilization.
I had included that in the vote, so
Okay.
I'm just asking the questions.
Mr. Chair, I had added the 4 temporary employees back in July, right after the budget, because we had some lapsed salary issues and we needed some critical staff to maintain the animals and basic response to the citizens. And as we've gone through, Ms. Green's came on, the challenge of having a larger facility with more animals, and there's a certain amount of time you have to spend with each animal each day, it's come to the conclusion this extra position is necessary. We were just kind of doing some rough math. If you spend, I don't know, how many animals do you have in now? Was it 100?
Right now, about 145,
Right.
around in there.
So, you know, having to feed, water, clean,
Medicate,
medicine,
et cetera.
it's an endeavor.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, do you want a motion?
Yes.
Move to approve?
Second?
Mr. Chairman, if I could, Mr. Harrelson, it's been demonstrated time after time that we've got a very vibrant volunteer community in the animal care area. Are we able to use volunteers in any way to help bridge this situation, or is that already being done and we still need this new hired?
Elma?
Yeah, we are utilizing the volunteer base that comes into the shelter, and we hope to expand on that, to engage the community and the Animal Services Department. The problem with volunteers is they're certainly not dependable. You know, they come in at will when they want to come in. Of course, they've got jobs and lives. So volunteers generally come in and socialize animals, spend time with the animals. We've asked them, of course, to help us with sanitation and all, but their desire is to interact with the animals. So the basic facility, sanitation, maintenance of the animals themselves require more trained personnel.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, I would just ask the board, I know this is sort of your last full meeting with this board, but as you walk away, I think we've talked about it over at least the last 4 years, the tremendous amount of unwanted animals in this county. It's clear that we built a facility that tripled the capacity, in some cases doubled in others, and we're already full. And we could build it 10 times bigger and we would be full. There's got to be something, Ms. Green and I have talked about it, spay and neuter program, something where we start lessening the amount of unwanted animals. If not, we're going to just continue to have to add and maintain employees.
Yeah, we've talked about this before in sessions, work sessions, and I would agree with you on that wholeheartedly.
Yes, sir.
It is a big problem, and we've got to come up with some other solutions to this problem.
Mr. Chairman, also, I was listening at the news this morning where someone from other county was bringing other animals to our county because they didn't have any place for them. So I think this is gonna continue on.
Commissioner Jones?
Mr. Chairman, the Animal Control Steering Committee that this board approved some months ago did meet one time. We were diverted because of the storm, and that has caused a big problem. We are planning on meeting Commissioner Tyson and myself with this task force the end of this month. You know, some good ideas that came out of the first meeting, and definitely we hope to you know, have a lot more and to be able to bring to this board and offer suggestions. I would just offer for information, and I know we've all heard it on the TV, you know, Colonial Capital Humane Society, they have 2 locations now. I mean, they took in a tremendous amount of animals during the storm. They had an adopted-a-thon Saturday, which I went to, and I think they had a successful time. But, you know, it goes beyond just our animal shelter about the number of animals, unwanted animals that we have in this county. It is a tremendous problem. It is a situation that, you know, we have, as a county, have invested an enormous amount of taxpayers' dollars towards in the last year with a new facility and additional staff. And here we go again with another one. So it is definitely a concern, should be a concern of all of us going forward.
Yes, and at the same time, we've increased the ordinances.
Yes.
That helped a little bit, but I commend the committee, and I think they'll come back with some good ideas. And thank you, Mr. Harrison.
Yes, sir.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McKay?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes,
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Moore?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Department Matters Court Facilities, Budget Amendment.
Mr. Chairman, are you going to do Dover?
Yes, let's do Dover first, okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chair, why don't you go ahead and do court facilities since
Yeah,
the mayor
let's
just
do the
stepped
court.
out? I think he'd like to be here for that. Can I go ahead and, can I introduce the court facilities item? And I think this is some really good news. Steve and Gene are gonna be working their way up. I got here in 2010, and there was a document on my desk that was a study for why Craven County needed a public defender's office. And the departing county manager said, Jack, if there's anything you get done while you're here, this is probably one of the most important things. And I took that to heart. And we've worked on this issue, each and every one of you, over the last 10 years. And I'm proud to say we were finally awarded a public defender's office in this last General Assembly's budget. It was a big deal for us. It'll be something that'll help us get court cases quicker through the system, which will reduce the time an individual may spend in our jail, which, as we know, cost us a tremendous amount of money. As Mr. Sampson often mentions, the health care bills alone will startle you. So I'm pleased here today that we're talking, Gene and Steve are going to present to you what I think is a very small amount of money to get this group up and running December the 4th, which is next month.
So as the county manager shared, Craven County was very fortunate to receive approval of the expansion for the Public Defender Office for District 3B into Craven County. The approval from the General Assembly came after the budget was finalized for the fiscal year. The program is going to require space at the Judicial Center, so we are going to be occupying some unused office space at the Judicial Center for this function, for the staff. This is located out at Clark's Road. They're also going to be utilizing some space in the courthouse annex, and you bring up to 8 employees into that office. Purchases need to be made related to office furniture, court record shelving, building sign changes, some electrical and data infrastructure, some minor general construction alterations just to accommodate the new office layouts. And as Jack shared, the public defender would like to begin servicing Craven County as close to December 4th as possible.
So these are one-time monies that Gene just described to set the office up. There will be some reoccurring costs, which we've told you about as we discussed this over the last 10 years. It's electric bills, janitorial, small things like that. Basically just providing the space and the cleanliness of the space. We don't provide any salaries or anything like that. We're just basically charged by general statutes to house the department. So it'll be a small number each year, but it'll be something.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Okay, we have a motion, second discussion?
Yes, I'd just like to say, ever since I've been on board, I've been on board about 22 years now, and we have been trying to get our office to help out in our jail system. And it looked like every time we tried, it would be turned down. We have a chance now, and we definitely need one, there's no doubts about it. We have some prisoners I know when I was chairman, and some of the guys was in there, hadn't even been tried for 2 years. They've been in jail for 2 years and still hadn't been tried. So when you go to jail and had to sit up there before you get tried, you spend time, even if you're innocent, you still be spending time in jail. So I think it's time and necessary that we would be afforded this luxury that some of the other county has already had.
This is, go ahead, Mr. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I think it needs to be, make sure it's recorded in our minutes that it was because of the efforts of Vice Chairman Dacey and a lot of work that he put into it, and Senator Norman Sanderson, that this became a reality for Craven County. And so I thank both of these gentlemen for the time and effort that they put into it.
Thank you.
And this is gonna save, in my opinion, the taxpayers money, and it's gonna be beneficial to the inmates as well, so they can get their time in court, because as the timeless adage, follow the money, that's what happened here when the General Assembly cut back the indigent reimbursement to $60.
Correct.
Then the attorney said, well, maybe it is a good idea to have a public defender. And had they kept it at the same rate, there's no doubt in my mind this program would not be happening. But again, good job, Commissioner Dacey. And David McFadden as well. David was instrumental in helping plead the case for this.
Okay. We have a motion. Any more discussion?
No.
Second. Let's have a roll call vote on this, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McKay?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dacey?
Yes.
Chairman Moore?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Mayor Weatherington.
Mr. Chairman, if we may, I'm going to ask, if we will, ask Mr. Gerard, Al Gerard, our water supervisor, if he will to come and give a presentation, if you will, just explain discussions that we've had with the town of Dover, and then I'll follow.
Okay.
If you allow him to come forward.
Sure.
Morning.
Morning.
We've had a couple of meetings about this proposal, and it's basically come down to a water line extension project. There's been some cost estimates put together for it. It's 425 linear feet of 4-inch line to be added to the existing water system we have, and we've got a vault with a meter, backflows. We have everything in place. It would just be a matter of them installing this new line and put it within existing stuff we already have. The issue was first discussed because of a CDBG project that was done where septic tanks were replaced with sewer. And the people that were involved with this project and were sent a sewer bill were not satisfied with what the price was and didn't want to pay it, so they wanted the water department to turn their water off to help get the idea of they need to pay their bill. Well, our policy is not to turn their water off for not paying a sewer bill, but for not paying the water bill. So we were unable to do that. So the engineer for McDavid and Associates and all the rest of us involved in it have been looking at different ways to accomplish a goal of being able to serve them water and serve them sewer, and to be able to collect for both of those fees. So, the last meeting we had, with this cost estimate of $37,575, there was a motion brought up about maybe the county participating in it with some funding or some type of way of helping with that cost. And we also talked about the CDBG project that was actually being used, could it pay for it? And I think that, you might help me with this one, there was a way to get some money from that grant to pay the water, but the grant that they were actually working with was for the sewer, and they can't commingle. So I'm basically here, I guess, in a way to see if y'all would be interested in helping with the funding of this particular water line extension. I will tell you this, most water line extension projects are paid for by the person that is like a developer or whatever. And once it's put in place and the engineer has certified it, then the county will go in and say, we approve it, we're asking the state to let it become part of our system. So this will still be done that same way, where they will put it in, and once they finish it and everybody is giving it its blessing, then we would take it over. But again, a lot of times, if there's not a meter involved, the water department will provide a meter, a backflow device or whatever, and that's costly. So anything that the county may want to help with as far as supporting with money would be a generous, I think, proposal. But anyway, I don't want to go too far with it, so that's all I got.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Al for coming and making the opening statements today. As he said, you know, Dover did supply some county residents with sewer. Their septic tanks were failing, and they took it upon themselves, because it was right out of the municipality, to go down Sand Hill Road, which is right on the county line, joining Lenoir County, and try to assist these citizens there. And not trying to be redundant in what he said, just want to make sure you understand, but they are having trouble now since they offered that service to these citizens of getting payment. And the only way to get payment is if they have control of the water source too. We own the water lines. I mean, we cannot allow them there to rightfully, to some degree, to at this point, without some type of negotiation or agreement, to go there and turn off county water, because they're paying the water bill. The problem is they're not paying their sewer bill. And so with this, in trying to come up with a realistic idea on how to solve that problem, McDavid and Associates did come up with installing this line. And again, if it's installed, it will become property of Craven County. You know, even though Dover may use their funding, some of their funding to put it in, or grant funding, it would become Craven County's property. So it is a benefit to our water system as a whole, you know, the infrastructure there. What I'd like to ask of the board to consider, I know this is the first time you've heard about it. Again, Commissioner Dacey, one of the reasons of bringing this before you is because of the time frame that they've got to try to send out bids because of this CDBG project. That time is running out. They do have some limited funding left within some of the sewer funds that they received. He is hopeful, that being McDavid and Associates, that he will be able to utilize some of that money. Again, it is questionable, but he is, you know, hopeful. So what I'd like to ask the board, I reckon it would be two things. One, that we would enter in some type of agreement, you know, with the town of Dover to allow them to have a working relationship as far as being able to cut off the water and so forth. I reckon that there's more correct terminology that would have to be drafted. But then secondly, you know, if the county would be willing to commit some funding to it out of our water fund, because it would be infrastructure that would be ours. And I'd like to ask, you know, the board to consider out of that $37,500 to commit $10,000 out of our water fund, and then the town of Dover would try to come up with the other $27,500.
Okay, so that's a motion.
That's a motion.
A second?
Second.
All right, discussion.
I just like to, Mr. Chairman, ask has we done this before for other citizens? I want to make sure all citizens are treated equal. In other county?
I would have to defer to the county manager.
No,
Yes,
I was
sir.
asking the chairman.
Well, Mr. Sampson, Commissioner Sampson, we have done similar things like this. We haven't done anything exactly like this because this is a fairly unique situation where the town of Dover put in a sewer system along the line. But we have helped other municipalities with water in the county. Most recently, we did a project with Cove City in the last 4 years where we they wanted to switch from the city of New Bern as a bulk water supply to the county as a bulk water supply. And we did share in some of the costs in that project where we put in, you know, a master vault. We had the two locking meters out inside and all the piping that goes with it. It was actually a similar cost project. I don't remember the exact split of how the financials went. So I think the precedent's even there, but I think it's even in that sort of area of geography of the county. I don't think, and I just want to be clear to you so you have all the information, I don't think this is the only issue in the county. I don't think town of Dover is unique in this. I think the city of Havelock also has this issue. Howbeit, the city of Havelock is a much larger scale issue within Kettner Heights that's been a long-term problem. But I think the precedent's there.
I just remember, I've worked so hard to try to help those people up there in Reverend Simmons area, try to get the state to come in there and somebody come in there and put some rock in the road out there. I still haven't done anything. I've been working on it about 5 or 6 years. I don't mind helping anyone, but I want all citizens to be treated equally. And I'm for it. I just want to make sure that we're going to treat the next group of citizens the same way as we are treating this one.
Okay, any other discussion?
I would just, if I may, Mr. Chairman, just remind the commissioner that this infrastructure will be the county's. You know, even though if you decide to commit any funding to it, the infrastructure that's being put in is Craven County's. Town of Dover would be giving you, for say, $27,500 worth of infrastructure.
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Well, let me ask this, if I can, just to have apples to apples here. If Havelock were to come to us with a similar situation, would they be also saying that this would be our infrastructure, or would this be Havelock's infrastructure? That we would simply be looking to supplement?
Well, the Havelock situation is certainly a bad example on my part, even though it's the same problem. It's a more complex issue, Commissioner Dacey, in that there's hundreds of customers versus a handful here. And I don't know how we would dance around the issue of losing that many customers. I mean, basically the only way to make the Havelock situation work would be to turn over those customers to the city of Havelock for water. The problem is they're not inside the city limits, so they would pay 2 times the normal rate. They'd be leaving a very convenient county rate, very cheap water cost to go to a 2 times the city rate. So I think the town of Dover in this case would, and Commissioner Jones, correct me if I'm wrong, is willing to keep them at the same rate they're at now, or a reduced rate. I believe we talked about that out in some of the meetings. I didn't go to the last meeting, I'm sorry. I was at every one but that one. But I think, Commissioner Dacey, the challenge in Havelock is greater than this.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that I think needs to be emphasized too is that we'll still be selling water to Dover. So it's not like we'll be giving them the water so they'll have the opportunity to be able to turn it off. So that's the only change. The master meter will be installed inside that existing vault, and that vault is for emergency. We've already hooked up with them anyway in case they need emergency, like we did for Jones County and like we did for the city of Havelock during the hurricane. So we have quite a few of those interconnections out there.
Forgive the naivety of this question, but I mean, are you essentially saying that we'll be able to maintain ratepayers by making certain that this project moves forward?
Yes, in a way.
And so
We'll have a master meter and be paid that, yeah.
And by the county contributing to this, it's effectively saying to Dover, this is our participation in it, and let's recognize that, I think I'm starting to understand this, but we're gonna be able to continue to service people that would be serviced otherwise. They're county residents, they're folks that deserve our support because they live in the county, they pay their taxes. And, I'm sorry, I'm just walking this through in my head here so I can reconcile my decision. I'm comfortable. Thank you.
I think the bottom line is a generous gesture for the county to be involved in.
Well, but it's not overly, is it overly generous though? That's what I don't want to be getting involved with.
It does benefit the county.
Yes, for infrastructure, for capital improvement. And if we've got a line that we can use without auditing issues or whatever with this particular money, because it was not budgeted and that kind of thing, I think we'll be good with it.
Mr. Chairman, where are the people getting water from now? Wells?
No, they get the county water.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
It's county water.
We just can't cut it off.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. We have a motion.
Okay.
We had a second. Let's have a roll call vote on this, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McKay?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dacy?
Yes.
Chairman Moore?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Okay, Department Matters, Finance.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I have one item on the agenda for your consideration this morning, which is a request to accept and approve the bond of the newly elected sheriff. General statutes require that the sheriff furnish a bond payable to the state of North Carolina and to provide that bond to the county commissioners for approval prior to taking office and no later than the first Monday in December after the election. Since the sheriff will be sworn in on prior to the December 3rd meeting, it is requested at this time that commissioners accept and approve the sheriff's bond in the amount of $10,000.
The previous sheriff's bond was 10,000?
Correct, sir.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote, please. Or is there any discussion on this first?
I would only ask that Mr. Kidwell look at this law when he goes to the General Assembly. I think the $10,000 bond has been sitting there for, what, 120 years or something?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
I'm not kidding, it's like 120 years.
It's an old statute.
And it's just grossly too low.
I would agree. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner McKay?
Yes.
Commissioner Sampson?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dacy?
Yes.
Chairman Moore?
Yes.
Thank you.
Appointments. Appointments be effective immediately unless otherwise specified. We have Adult Care Home Advisory Committee, 6 vacancies. I'm just going to mention this because Representative Kidwell is in the audience. Originally, the counties were able to go appoint people to this committee. And we generally ran 7 or 8 people on this committee. We're now short 6 people. Also, the Nursing Home Advisory Committee, we are short 4 vacancies since they've taken the appointments away from us. We can still appoint, but we have to go through the COG in order to appoint, and it's double work all the way around. And it's caused us not to have people going out to these agencies. In fact, I've spoken to a couple of the chairmen on these committees, and they're looking to maybe not do it anymore. And it's gonna put us in a bad situation. You've got people in nursing homes and adult care facilities that need these people coming in to check and make sure they're getting the things that they are entitled to. And by them by the House of Representatives, or I guess it was the COG county manager?
Yes, sir.
That caused this. We now have 6 vacancies in one and 4 in the other, and we probably only have 2 or 3 people serving on the Adult Care Home Advisory, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Nan?
That sounds correct. I don't have.
And also the Nursing Home Advisory Committee, I think, is down to about 3 people. So, and these committees, before, the Adult Care Committee, I believe we were allowed to appoint 11 people. And the Nursing Home Committee, I believe we were allowed to appoint 7 to 8 people. So it's really become a serious problem in that before, the commissioners were appointing people to these committees, and then it was taken away from us. And I think something should be done in the House of Representatives and the Senate to correct the situation with the COG. Sorry for that.
What I'm here for.
Emergency Medical Service Council, we have 1 vacancy, and Craven Board of Adjustments, 2 vacancies. However, Floyd Bullock has submitted an application containing attachment 7B, the appointment for Craven County Board of Adjustments. Board requests to nominate also the MACAS Cherry Point zoning area. First of all, do I have a motion to appoint Floyd Bullock?
So move. Second?
We don't really need a second.
No.
I'll do it by acclamation. As far as the MAC Cherry Point zoning, have we done anything in that area
You just approved one.
besides this one?
No, you only have one more.
Okay.
You've got one more, and there's the list is back out in your agenda again for your last appointment. You know, you've got 2 areas you need to think about. Obviously, Mr. Bullock is down in the Cherry Point area. You also have the area up here around the airport you can have people from. So it's good to keep a mix there.
Okay. Upcoming appointments, Coastal Regional Solid Waste Management Authority, Joe Fogelman, term ends, Craven County Health Board, Keola Perry, her term ends, Natalie Shelton, that's a veterinarian term. Craven Pamlico Claridette Regional Library Board, and Fireman's Relief Fund. Those are 4 further purpose for the next month. County Attorney's Report.
Page 8.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Have one item for your consideration this morning. It's a final acceptance on county and town of Dover owned property, parcel ID number 3D06052. The county and town previously received and approved an offer in the amount of $2,500 for this property. Total taxes foreclosed on originally $47,2729. The current tax value is $4,000. As the board knows, after your initial approval, we published for upset bids. There were no upset bids, so we're back before you for final approval this morning.
Okay. How does the board feel about this?
Make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays? The ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. County Manager's Report.
Hey, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to come before you this morning. The group in the back that left was Leadership Craven. I was going to recognize them. They left before I could get up here. But that was the second group we've had come forward to learn a little bit more about county government. Real quick brief this morning. The county will be closed on November 22nd, which is Thursday of this week, and November 23rd, Friday, for Thanksgiving. We wish all the commissioners and your family a happy Thanksgiving. As you know, in the last 2 weeks, we've had an election. Everything went very well here in Craven County from a technical standpoint. I want to thank Melanie and her staff for a really, really great job. Those folks worked really hard during the week before, the week of, and the week after doing all the things it takes to an election. We're really blessed with a great staff down there, so I want to make you aware of that.
At this point, do we have any cost on that election?
I do not, sir. We won't have those for a few more weeks. It was, however, a relatively high turnout. I'm sure y'all are aware of that. And lastly, not to steal your thunder, Chairman Mark, but last week was able to get back and attend a Highway 70 meeting. I'm pleased to say that progress is still being made on some of the major projects in Craven County, particularly the James City upgrade project. Commissioner Tyson, they're moving quickly on that. The Havelock bypass, they're already acquiring right-of-way. We're still working, trying to finalize our deal with them on the Hickman Hill convenience site. There's some last-minute things that need to be done there. They did expand the James City project, as you're all aware, to 2 additional intersections going down toward Havelock. Those are planned to be in design along with the first project in James City. So I think coming forward in the next 1 to 3 years, you're going to see a lot of construction in that corridor. So that's my report, unless you have any questions.
Any questions by any of them?
Thank you.
I'm going to take Chairman's privilege for a moment, and that is that Keith Kidwell would like to address the commissioners, and I'm going to allow him to do that.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. I appreciate your time this morning, commissioners, commissioners-elect, and the citizens of Craven County. Really, this morning, what I wanted to do was take this opportunity to introduce myself as the representative-elect to the 79th District, which will cover the upper third, roughly, of Craven County. I take the job very seriously, which is why I am making an effort to get out to all of the commissioners, the town meetings, the chambers of commerce, the school boards, and schools themselves, to listen to what you folks have to say, the issues that you're facing. I don't feel I can properly represent you if I'm not familiar with that. Some of the points that are raised here this morning, very valid, things that probably should be addressed. You'll note that I did drop my card on your desk this morning. Unfortunately, all I have currently are the election cards, but that cell phone number will still be good, as will the email address. As my new business cards from the state come available, I'll endeavor to get those down to you as well. Really, I'm here on a listening tour. That's what this is about. I need to hear what you guys have going on, what the folks of Craven County's issues are. Tried to familiarize myself with that. It can be difficult. The newspapers aren't always as thorough as they need to be. So really, I open myself to your questions or questions from the commissioners-elect, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Does any of the commissioners have a question they'd like to ask?
Mr. Chairman, the county manager just spoke to thank our elections director, and I think that we would all echo that. She's done a terrific job. You won't see any problems in South Florida here in Craven County.
Praise God for that.
What I would ask of you is to reach out to her and to other elections directors that we've got throughout the state. In discussions with her, I've learned that there are a number of shortcomings that have kind of just monkeyed up the system that they have to work with. And a lot of these things, quite candidly, are things that have been generated by actions of the General Assembly.
Right.
When they have established uniform times of operation, while I guess it makes some sense because you want to let the public know where they can go to vote, it's also a complete waste of money in many instances because you're creating voting places that are not highly used. They don't need to stay open 12 hours a day for, umpteen days out of the pre-election service. And so we've got to get some of these bugs worked out because it's costing the counties so much money to do this. And I would hope that your colleagues in the General Assembly understand that when they go down this path, they're forcing us to have to pay for something that's not being utilized. And I suspect that you're going to hear that from Beaufort County as well and elsewhere. But I guess I would just encourage you to talk to those folks, listen to them if you can, and do what you think is the right thing to do, obviously.
And I appreciate that and agree, Commissioner Dacey, that many of the locations that were open in both counties were excessive for the number of votes that would be available for those locations. I guess the worst example or best example, depending on how you look at it, would be Aurora in Beaufort County. where the total votes available there were less than 500. And we were open for 18 days, if you include Election Day at that location, 12 hours or more per day. The cost to do that is exorbitant. I know in Beaufort County, their estimates, which I think were likely low, was that that was going to be in the neighborhood of $30,000. When you start extrapolating that statewide, it turns into a very large sum of money that's coming out of the coffers of the citizens of the counties, and I think unnecessarily so. So that is something I think that we will address when we look at the new election laws. I don't find any of the directors of the boards of elections that were happy with what was presented to them. There's also a movement underfoot, to my understanding, at the Board of Elections at the state level to not have any citizen be more than 5 minutes from a polling location. Clearly, the citizens in Raleigh have no understanding of eastern North Carolina, okay? In Beaufort and Hyde counties and in Craven counties, there's many a citizen that is 5 minutes from their neighbor, okay? Forget about 5 minutes from getting to a polling place. So that would be just a little bit ridiculous for areas such as ours. So there's a lot of work to be done in Raleigh. I am up to the challenge, I assure you. I'm not the sit down, shut up kind of guy. You know, you may have detected that over the time we've known each other. So
Never found you to be that kind of guy.
no, not going to happen. So,
But I want to thank you again for your willingness to serve the people, and I wish you all the
I am honestly quite honored. It actually still sends chills up my spine to realize the vote that I pulled in the 79th district, and it is a very distinct honor to serve the people.
Mr. Jones, did you have?
Yes, Representative.
Representative-elect.
You will represent myself and Commissioner Chairman Mark, and both of us represent the rural part, mainly the rural part of Craven County. In saying that, you know, I farm for a living.
Mm-hmm.
Agriculture is definitely something I advocate for, not only on this board, but other boards of which I serve on through Farm Bureau. Farm income has fell about 48 to 50% since 2013. We're faced with one of the worst years. We say that a lot, but this truly, 2018 for most farmers is one of the worst years in history.
Mm-hmm.
We're at a crunch right now to make a decision, how do we pay out or do we just quit? Today I will leave this meeting and go to another meeting of area farmers that are going to learn how to sign up for disaster assistance through the state. It's a humbling experience to have to do that. In saying that, I know that you will, but the North Carolina legislature has been very pro-agriculture, and I'm very thankful for that, for what they've passed with the North Carolina Farm Act for the past few years. But I just ask that you please be conscious of the needs of rural Craven County and the agriculture sector. And also, you know, definitely our sales tax exemption that we have, we cannot survive without it. Present use value is of the most essence, and the list can continue.
Sure.
A lot of people look at it as handouts, but if we don't maintain those exemptions, and if we don't continue to have a pro-agriculture General Assembly, we will no longer have agriculture in North Carolina. There's no way.
Right.
There are those that want to put us out of business with nuisance lawsuits and so forth and so on. Well, if that's what they want for China to supply their food source, so be it. But I think you get what I'm trying to say, and we will definitely have a lot more conversation as time goes on. And thank you for your willingness to serve.
And I look forward to the conversations, Commissioner Jones. On agriculture, on that front, I am painfully aware of how bad it was 2018. In fact, I attended the Blackland Farmers Association meeting in Beaufort County, which I believe encompassed 5 counties, and heard the horror stories at that time. This was pre-hurricane. That they had suffered due to the excessive amounts of rains. They couldn't even access their fields. The equipment wasn't able to get through some of it. You know, there's some of them that had technology to deal with. I was amazed to find that they have technology that shows them where they planted, so the machine can basically go pick the stuff. They didn't have to worry about finding the rows because the machine did it. which not all farmers have that ability, and I'm sure that doesn't solve all of the loss of the crops that were suffered. You will find in me a very supportive representative on agriculture and the aquaculture that we see in eastern North Carolina. For too long, Raleigh and Fayetteville and Charlotte areas have been the ones that have gotten the attention in many areas. Agriculture being one, I think education being another big one. Infrastructure we've been neglected on. There's a lot of these road projects. I hear this morning talking about the Highway 70 project. These projects have been a long time coming, and unfortunately, in the event of a shortfall, they can turn around and pull the funding on them. You know, Highway 17, I know they've been talking about for over 20 years. It's still not done. These things have to be completed. We have to support eastern North Carolina in these efforts. Otherwise, we're going to remain in the situation where we don't have businesses coming into the area, where we don't have people coming into the area. From a financial aspect, I wholly understand how important the farmers are to the economy. And it's not just the farmers. It's guys like me in my business. I own the H&R Block in Beaufort County. If it wasn't for farmers, I'd be out of business. All right, so it's something I am fully aware of, and we'll keep an eye to that for you.
I second with Commissioner Jones. You know, the average age of a farmer is 58 years old. And it's not hard to look and say, maybe I should retire.
Yeah.
And that could hurt us. Commissioner Tyson, did you have something you wanted to? No. Nothing, okay. I commend you for coming here today and addressing us. I hope this won't be the last, and we'll see you in the future.
I will make my best efforts to get here. Of note, it will typically be a morning meeting because session off, when we're not in session, it will be much easier to attend nearly any meeting. During session, and why I'm making this effort now, is that we'll start our sessions typically Monday afternoons, so that would put me out of town until usually Friday morning. So that's why I wanted to be here today. But thank you all, and if anybody has questions, I will stick around to the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion. We have commissioners' reports, but we have a closed session. I was wondering if we could go into closed session first and then have the commissioners' reports after that. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, we're in closed session.